The night had deepened into an oppressive silence, broken only by the distant creak of rusted rides swaying in the restless wind. Beneath the fractured canopy of the big top, Lena and Eddie spread the fragile relics of a forgotten era across a battered folding table. The flickering neon lights cast long, wavering shadows as they poured over brittle photographs, yellowed ledgers, and hand-scribed journals that spoke of the carnival's origins and the ringmaster's dreadful pact. "This is it," Eddie murmured, his voice rough with exhaustion and hope. "The ritual that bound the carnival's soul. But it's not just about breaking it. It's about severing the source, the heart of its power." Lena's eyes scanned the faded script, her fingers tracing the cryptic symbols etched beside the instructions. If I do this, it could end everything, or it could destroy me." Eddie nodded grimly. "There's no other way. The carnival feeds on fear, but this ritual could starve it. You all need to be strong." They gathered the necessary items, a circle of candles, a shard of the ringmaster's cracked porcelain mask discovered during their previous confrontations, and a length of twisted iron taken from the carousel's rusted frame. Every piece carried its own weight of dread and history. As Lena arranged the ritual circle in the center of the silent midway, the air grew colder, thick with anticipation. The carnival seemed to hold its breath. A sudden chill swept past her, and from the mist emerged Mara, her translucent form shimmering faintly under the blood moon's glow. "You walk a dangerous path." Mara's voice was barely more than a whisper, yet it pierced the silence like a blade. "The cost of breaking the cycle is more than you know. The ringmaster's wrath is not just fury, it is desperation, born of centuries of pain and loss." Lena swallowed hard but met the ghost's gaze steadily. "I have to try, for all of us, for those still trapped here." Mara's form flickered, a sad smile touching her lips. "Then I will stand with you as I have with others before. But beware, the carnival will not yield without a fight." The first candle's flame sputtered alive, casting eerie shadows that danced like specters among the broken booths and faded banners. Lena took a deep breath, steadying the tremble in her hands. She began the incantation, her voice low and steady, weaving words older than the carnival itself. The ground beneath them trembled, a deep rumble that echoed through the bones of the fairground. Around the circle, spectral figures flickered into existence, faces twisted in anguish and fear, caught forever in the carnival's web. They reached out, silent screams etched into their ethereal forms. Suddenly, a surge of malicious laughter erupted, chilling and cruel. The ringmaster appeared at the edge of the circle, his tall, gaunt figure draped in the tattered red coat, the cracked porcelain mask reflecting the candlelight with a malevolent gleam. "Foolish girl," he hissed, voice like grinding glass. "You cannot unmake what has been bound by blood and sorrow." Lena's heart pounded, but she held her ground, the ritual's power coursing through her veins. "This ends tonight," she declared, voice steady despite the terror clawing at her mind. The carnival convulsed, rides groaning as if alive, twisting and distorting in the darkness. The carousel's horses screamed silently as flames flickered wildly, the air thick with the scent of burning memories and lost hopes. Eddie moved to stand beside her, his presence a steady anchor. "Keep going, Lena, we're almost there." As her chant grew stronger, the spectral figures around the circle writhed, their anguish turning to desperate hope. The ringmaster's form began to waver, his power unraveling like smoke in the wind. But the strain was immense. Lena's vision blurred, pain lancing through her temples. Shadows reached for her, whispering doubts and fears, threatening to engulf her entirely. Summoning every ounce of will, she pushed forward, her voice a rallying cry against the encroaching darkness. The carnival's grip faltered, the laughter fading into a distant echo. The ringmaster's mask cracked further, his form flickering like a dying flame. Then, with a final shuddering breath, the carnival stilled. The oppressive weight lifted, replaced by a fragile silence that stretched across the broken midway. Lena collapsed to her knees, breath ragged but victorious. Around her, The spectral figures smiled, their torment eased as they began to fade into the night. Eddie crouched beside her, eyes shining with relief. You did it. You really did it. But as the first light of dawn threatened the horizon, Lena knew this victory was but a pause of fragile calm before the storm. The carnival's heart had been wounded, but its dark legacy was far from over. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows, the ringmaster's curse still whispered promises of terror reborn. She looked up at the blood moon's fading glow, resolve hardening like steel in her chest. This isn't over. Not yet. And with that, Lena prepared for the battles still to come, her courage a beacon against the gathering darkness. The blood moon hung low in the sky, casting its crimson glow over the Hollow Carnival as Lena Harper sprinted across the cracked pavement, her heart pounding against her ribs like a frantic drum. Beside her, Eddie Marlowe's heavy footsteps kept pace, while little Tommy's small, trembling hand gripped hers tightly. Every breath tasted of iron and stale popcorn. Every shadow seemed to twist and pulse with malevolent life. The carnival was waking fully now, its dark heart beating faster with each scream it had fed on, and the waning moon signaled the closing window of their escape. Ahead, the tilt-a-whirl beckoned, its rusted arms creaking in the night air, spinning erratically as if alive. The metal cars swung wildly under the blood-red light, shadows flitting like trapped spirits across the peeling paint. Lena swallowed the lump in her throat but forced her legs forward. We have to keep moving, she urged, her voice tight with urgency. The longer we stay, the stronger it gets. Eddie gave a curt nod, his eyes scanning the shifting darkness. This place doesn't just want us to leave, it wants us to stay scared. It feeds on it. His hand found the small knife strapped to his belt, fingers tightening around the worn hilt. We'll need every ounce of luck to get out of this in one piece. Tommy whimpered softly, his wide eyes reflecting the flickering carnival lights. Will it catch us? He asked, voice barely audible. Lena squeezed his hand reassuringly. Not if we don't let it. Stay close. They plunged into the tilt-a-whirl, the cars lurching and spinning with a life of their own. The screams from the echoes of trapped souls reverberated through the metal framework, a cacophony of terror that sent icy shivers down Lena's spine. She forced herself to focus, to ignore the sensation that the ride itself was trying to claw them back into its grasp. Exiting the whirling nightmare, they stumbled into the Hall of Shadows, a warped house of mirrors, where every reflection twisted into grotesque distortions. Lena's own visage stared back at her, eyes wide with fear but resolute. The cracked glass bent the light, and somewhere in the distance, the ringmaster's chilling laughter echoed like a dirge. He's close, Eddie warned, voice low. Can you feel it? Lena nodded, her gaze darting nervously. We can't let him catch us now. Not after everything. They pressed onward, the midway unfolding like a twisted labyrinth. Flickering booths lined their path, draped in tattered banners that fluttered in a phantom breeze. The air was thick with the scent of stale popcorn, burnt sugar, and something far more sinister, a metallic tang that spoke of blood and fear. Lena's senses sharpened. Every sound, the distant clang of a bell, the faint thud of footsteps not their own, was a warning. Suddenly, a carousel's haunting melody drifted through the air, warped and discordant. The painted horses seemed to twist their necks, their eyes gleaming with unnatural hunger. Lena pulled Tommy closer, shielding him as the carnival's energy surged like a living storm. Almost there, she whispered, pushing forward with renewed determination. Just a little further, the first pale light of dawn seeped through the skeletal trees surrounding the fairground, bleeding softly into the night's shadows. Exhausted and trembling, Lena paused at the boundary where the carnival's grip began to fade. The haunting cries and sinister laughter dulled, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft chirping of early birds. But even as relief washed over her, Lena felt an unshakable chill, the lingering gaze of the ringmaster, a silent promise that this nightmare was far from over. Her breath hitched, resolve hardening like tempered steel. We were not safe yet, she murmured, eyes scanning the fading darkness. But we were closer than we've ever been. Eddie nodded beside her, wiping sweat and grime from his brow. Then let's make sure we don't waste this chance. Tommy looked up at them both, hope mingling with fear in his young eyes. Will we really get out? Lena smiled, faint but fierce. We have to, for all of us. The carnival's twisted world had tested them at every turn, its spectacle a seductive trap, its nostalgia a cruel mask. Yet beneath the terror, a spark of courage burned bright. The race against dawn was not just a flight from darkness, but a desperate bid for redemption, for survival, for the chance to face what awaited beyond the blood moon's fading light. And as the first rays touched the horizon, Lena knew the final battle was near. The carnival's heart might still beat in the shadows, but her own pulse matched its rhythm, now steady, unyielding, and ready to defy the darkness that sought to consume her. The race was far from over. The carnival waited, its breath held, as the dawn approached, and with it, the promise of either freedom or eternal entrapment. The air inside the big top was thick with an unnatural chill, shadows twisting and shifting like living things against the peeling red and white striped canvas. Lena stood at the center of the vast tent, her breath shallow but steady, eyes locked on the towering figure before her. The ringmaster loomed like a specter from a nightmare, a gaunt silhouette clad in a tattered blood-stained red coat and a top hat that seemed too large for his emaciated frame. His face was hidden behind a cracked porcelain mask, its fractured surface catching the flickering light with a sinister gleam. The carnival itself seemed to pulse around them, the distant echo of laughter and screams intertwining in a maddening cacophony that prickled at the edges of Lena's sanity. Every flicker of light cast long, grotesque shadows, and the faint scent of rusted metal and stale popcorn hung heavy in the air. Though the carnival was a place of spectacle and nostalgia, now it felt like a tomb, a prison built on terror and despair. Lena's heart hammered in her chest, yet she stood her ground. The journey here had been a harrowing descent through memories and nightmares, but she was no longer the frightened girl who had first stepped into the Hollow Carnival. She was a survivor, fueled by a fierce determination to end the nightmare. "So, you've come at last." The ringmaster's voice slithered through the darkness, a chilling mixture of velvet and razor edges. His tone was mocking yet tinged with a sorrow that unsettled Lena. "I've been waiting for you, little bird. Your screams will keep the carnival alive forever." Lena swallowed hard, steadying her voice. "I'm not here to feed your hunger." The ringmaster laughed, a hollow, echoing sound that sent shivers down her spine. Then, with sudden movement, he stepped closer, the porcelain mask cracking further, revealing a glimpse of a tortured, haunted man beneath the cruel facade. His eyes, dark and hollow, flickered with regret. "I was once like you," he whispered, voice trembling. "A man who dreamed of wonder, lost to the shadows. All I ever wanted was to keep the magic alive, but the price was too great." The revelation struck Lena with unexpected weight. This was not merely a monster. This was a soul broken by sacrifice and cursed by his own choices. But there was no time for pity. The carnival's power surged, the ground beneath them trembling as the twisted attractions hummed with renewed energy. From the shadows, Eddie stepped forward, his scruffy beard bristling with tension, eyes sharp but filled with a flicker of hope. "Lena," he called quietly, "remember what Mara told us. The carnival feeds on fear, but it's fragile. It can be broken." A translucent figure appeared beside him, Mara, her pale form shimmering like a ghostly flame. Her eyes held warmth despite the eerie glow surrounding her. "You are the key," she said softly. "Face the fear and you can shatter the cycle." Lena nodded, drawing in a steadying breath. She felt the weight of every trapped soul, every scream that had fueled this cursed place. Their pain lent her strength. She stepped forward, meeting the ringmaster's gaze with unyielding resolve. "It ends tonight," she declared. The ringmaster's expression twisted, a mixture of anger and sorrow. He raised a hand, and the carnival seemed to roar in response. Rides groaned, lights flickered wildly, and the very air crackled with malevolent energy. Lena felt the terror clawing at her mind, memories and fears rising like a tide threatening to drown her. But she held fast. In a moment suspended between heartbeats, Lena reached deep within herself, summoning the courage that had carried her through every nightmare. She spoke aloud, words steady and clear, "You are not eternal. Your reign ends here." A burst of blood-red light exploded from her palms, flooding the big top with searing brilliance. The carnival shuddered as if in pain, the ringmaster stumbling back, his mask cracking further. His tortured eyes met hers one last time, not with hatred, but with tragic resignation. "Perhaps this is mercy," he whispered as the shadows began to unravel around him. The light expanded, swallowing the darkness, and for a moment, the carnival was silent. Then, with a shuddering groan, the twisted world began to collapse, the nightmare fracturing like glass. Lena felt herself pulled toward the edge of the unraveling carnival, Eddie's hand gripping hers tightly. Mara's ghostly form smiled faintly, fading like morning mist. As dawn crept over the horizon, the Hollow Carnival began to dissolve into memory, its terrible grip loosening. But as Lena took a final breath of the crisp morning air, a cold whisper echoed in her mind, a promise that the terror was not truly gone, only waiting to be reborn with the next blood moon. The battle was won, but the war was far from over, and the carnival was waiting. Lena's hands trembled as she lowered them, the last vestiges of the crimson light fading. Around her, the carnival's twisted landscape was breaking apart like shards of a shattered dream. The oppressive atmosphere lifting with every collapsing ride and flickering light. The ringmaster's form was dissolving into the shadows, his once commanding presence now reduced to a whisper lost in the wind. "Is it over?" Eddie asked, voice hoarse but hopeful. "For now," Lena replied, eyes scanning the fading structures. "But this place, it's a wound that might never fully heal." Mara's translucent figure appeared once more, her smile bittersweet. "You've done what few could. But remember, fear is a seed that always finds soil." The trio stood in the clearing light of dawn, the carnival's haunting echoes retreating into silence. Lena felt the weight of the journey settle heavily on her shoulders, the memories of loss, pain, and courage intertwining in a fragile tapestry. Yet amidst the ruin, a spark of hope glimmered. As the sun rose higher, bathing the fairground in golden light, Lena knew this was not just an end, but a beginning, a chance to reclaim her life and face whatever darkness might come with newfound strength. But in the shadows beyond the fading carnival, a faint, sinister chuckle stirred, promising the Hollow Carnival's return, and with it, the endless cycle of spectacle, nostalgia, and terror reborn. The night deepened, folding in on itself like a suffocating shroud as the Hollow Carnival's malevolent pulse grew erratic, the rides convulsing with an unnatural life. Lena's breath came in ragged gasps, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against the crushing weight pressing down on her chest. Around her, the midway twisted and contorted the once familiar sights, now grotesque parodies of joy and celebration, warped by the carnival's desperate hunger for fear. The air was thick with the metallic scent of rust and decay mingled with the faint, sickly sweet aroma of burnt sugar and stale popcorn. A sick reminder of the carnival's faded past made sinister in the present. The carousel's horses screeched as their painted eyes blurred shadows, their wooden limbs jerking spasmodically to the discordant tune that clawed at the edges of sanity. Lena's gaze flicked to the shattered mirror maze ahead, its fractured surfaces reflecting 1,000 warped images of herself. Each reflection twisted her features into something monstrous, eyes hollow and empty, smiles curving into snarls. The whispers began, soft at first, then rising into a chorus of tormenting voices that echoed her deepest fears, abandonment, failure, the dark memory of her missing brother lost to this cursed place. A cold sweat broke across her skin as the voices seeped into her mind, clawing at her resolve. "You will never leave," they hissed. "You belong here, just like them." Her knees buckled, and for a moment, the terror threatened to swallow her whole. But then, a faint glow caught her eye. Eddie's weathered face emerged from the shadows, his eyes sharp and steady despite the chaos. Beside him, the pale figure of Mara shimmered ethereally, her presence a fragile shield against the encroaching darkness. "Hold on, Lena," Eddie's voice cut through the cacophony. "We're not done yet." Summoning every shred of courage, Lena forced her trembling legs to carry her forward. The reflections jeered, but she refused to look away, focusing instead on the flickering light of friendship and hope. The carnival roared in fury, the ringmaster's silhouette materializing from the shadows, his tattered coat billowing as if alive. His cracked porcelain mask caught the moonlight, eyes like empty voids that seemed to pierce through to her soul. "You cannot resist forever," he intoned, voice dripping with cruel amusement. "This is my domain, and your fear is my sustenance." Lena squared her shoulders, meeting the unyielding gaze with a fierce glare. "You're wrong. I'm not your prey." The ground trembled as the carnival answered his call, rides spinning faster, lights flickering wildly. The air thickened with a tangible dread, a living entity that wrapped around her like chains. Yet despite the mounting terror, a spark ignited within Lena, a defiant flame that refused to be extinguished. Eddie stepped forward, brandishing a rusted carnival token from his pocket. "We've been trapped too long," he growled. "It's time to end this nightmare." Mara's voice, soft but resolute, joined them. The carnival feeds on fear, but courage can starve it. Together, they advanced, their unity a fragile bulwark against the tempest of horror. As Lena reached out toward the ringmaster, the carnival convulsed violently, screams and laughter melding into a terrifying symphony. The entity lashed out, forcing Lena to reel back, the force of its wrath threatening to shatter her spirit. Pain lanced through her chest, memories, fears, and doubts surged like a tidal wave, but she clenched her fists, pushing against the crushing despair. "I'm not afraid," she whispered, voice trembling but unwavering. For a fleeting moment, the carnival faltered, the rides stuttering as if wounded. The ringmaster's mask cracked further, his power waning beneath the weight of Lena's defiance. But the victory was Pyrrhic. Exhaustion dragged her down, muscles trembling, mind frayed at the edges. The carnival's echoing screams faded into a low, menacing growl as the night stretched on, promising that this battle was far from over. Lena collapsed against the cold metal railing of a derelict ride, her breath shallow but spirit unbroken. Around her, the carnival writhed in pain and rage, the echoes of fear still reverberating in the air. Yet beneath it all, a stubborn ember of hope glowed, a promise that the nightmare could end if she held fast. As the blood moon hovered high, casting its crimson light over the twisted fairground, Lena's eyes burned with resolve. This was the crucible, the final test of her strength and will. If she could endure the echoes of fear, perhaps she could shatter the carnival's hold once and for all. But the question lingered, sharp and unforgiving. How long could she withstand the relentless tide of terror before it consumed her entirely? The carnival waited, patient and hungry, as the battle for souls raged on beneath the blood moon's unyielding gaze. The air was thick with a suffocating weight, the kind that pressed into Lena's chest and squeezed, making every breath a labor. Around her, the hollow carnival pulsed like a dark, breathing beast, its heart a chaotic vortex swirling with screams, shadows, and the faintest echoes of laughter that twisted into something cruel and mocking. The blood moon hung low, casting an eerie crimson glow that bled into the night, turning the fairground into a realm caught between nightmare and reality. Lena stood rooted, her hands trembling at her sides. The carousel of horrors she had endured, the fractured memories, the twisted faces of trapped souls, all of it had led here to this terrible core. The carnival was alive, and it was hungry, feeding on the terror and despair of those who had dared to enter. She could feel its fingers reaching for her, tugging at the fragile threads of her mind, threatening to drag her under. Her dark eyes scanned the swirling vortex before her, the source of the carnival's unholy power. It was a maelstrom of anguish, a churning sea of fear that rippled with the echoes of every scream ever forced into its depths. The scent of burnt sugar and rusted metal mingled with the acrid tang of smoke, and the faint, sickly sweetness of decay lingered in the air. Lena's heart hammered fiercely, but beneath the dread, a fierce resolve solidified within her. "This ends tonight," she whispered to herself, clutching the locket that had belonged to her brother, the last tangible piece of her past that the carnival had not yet claimed. Behind her, footsteps approached. Eddie's weathered face emerged from the shadows, his eyes sharp but tired. "We don't have much time," he said, voice gravelly but steady. "The carnival's power is peaking. If we don't act now, none of us will escape." Lena nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I know what I have to do." They moved carefully through the shattered remains of a once grand tent, its striped fabric billowing like ghosts in the wind. Here, in the quiet between the screams, Lena and Eddie shared a moment of fragile humanity. He spoke softly of his sister, lost to the carnival's insatiable hunger, and she revealed the painful truth of her brother's disappearance, how the blood moon had stolen him away, leaving a void that had haunted her every step. "You're stronger than you think," Eddie said, gripping her shoulder. "We all are." A sudden chill swept through the tent, and the ethereal form of Mara appeared, her pale, translucent figure shimmering in the dim light. She offered a solemn nod, her eyes reflecting centuries of sorrow and hope. "The choice is yours, Lena, to sacrifice what you hold most dear, or become part of the carnival forever." Lena's gaze faltered, the weight of the decision crushing her. The carnival's malevolent force coiled closer, and from the shadows emerged the ringmaster, tall and gaunt, his blood-stained coat fluttering like a dark flag. The cracked porcelain mask hid a face twisted by cruelty and loss, his voice a sibilant whisper that slithered through the night air. "Give me your memories, your pain," he intoned. "Feed me your fear, and you may yet live. Refuse and be consumed." Tears streamed unchecked as Lena clutched the locket to her chest. The memories of her brother flashed through her mind, the laughter they shared, the last moments before he vanished into the carnival's maw. It was a part of her very soul, and yet she knew the cost of holding on. With a trembling hand, she opened the locket and let the memories flow free. They poured into the vortex like a river of light, mingling with the screams and shadows. The carnival shuddered violently, its hold weakening for the first time in centuries. A chorus of anguished voices rose, mingled with the faintest whisper of hope. Tummy, the frightened boy she had sworn to protect, appeared beside her, clutching his stuffed toy. His wide eyes reflected the flickering lights, and for a moment, innocence pierced the darkness. "We can still get out," Lena whispered, though her voice was fragile, worn thin by sacrifice. Eddie nodded grimly. "But the carnival won't go down without a fight." As the vortex shrank and the carnival's power waned, Lena felt a hollowness settle inside her, a void left by the memories she had relinquished. She was free, but the price was steep. The carnival's nightmarish cycle had been broken for now, but the scars ran deep. The blood moon began its slow descent, and with the first light of dawn creeping over the horizon, Lena took a shaky breath and stepped forward into the uncertain light. The carnival faded behind her, its laughter echoing faintly, a hollow promise lingering in the air. Her journey was far from over. The battle for her soul had exacted its toll, and as she walked away from the twisted midway, the question remained, who was she without the memories that had defined her? And would the carnival truly let her go? The night whispered its answer, dark and unresolved, as the promise of the next blood moon loomed on the horizon.